Yeah. All right. So we mentioned JD Davidson coming off the bench. We mentioned him accepting a role. I think that's a perfect transition and a perfect segue into a team where guys are not accepting roles and are not happy coming off the bench and are not in a position where they are the team has really come together. And that is Memphis, and that is Emoni Bates, and that is Penny Hardaway. They had another ugly loss. That's, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, your third loss in a row. They went to Ole Miss, and it was just it's very, very difficult to watch them play. It's not pretty. I think it's fair to say that it's selfish. There's a lot of one-on-one. There are so many brilliant basketball minds on that bench, from Penny Hardaway to Larry Brown to Rasheed Wallace to even Cody Toppert is a guy that I think is a very, very smart basketball person. And that they don't run anything even remotely close to like the amount of coaching acumen that they have on that bench. So
I'm not sure that's true. So I called them out the other day, and I went back and I watched a bunch of offensive possessions, because then, you backtrack, you start thinking, well, was that fair? Was that, they ran some okay stuff. Now, what they did after they got there, Doster, is a whole nother story. And I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to play devil's advocates a little bit, because Penny, he blasted his upperclassmen. If I was an upperclassman and Emoni Bates came in, he's supposed to be a junior in high school or whatever he is, or senior in high school, and he comes in not physically ready, and he's shooting the shots after we gained some momentum last year in the NIT where things are starting to roll a little bit, I'd be a little pissed too now. Like, there's a couple of shots that he took that are just, one, they're not in the flow of the offense. Two, he's not a pass up a good shot for a great shot guy, because there's a couple of great shots that he's not making that extra pass. And he
won't pass up a bad shot for a better shot. Like if the shot's there, it's up.
What was Fran Fraschella's line? What did he say? They were playing Iowa State at Barclays, and Emoni took some dumb shot, and Fran Fraschilla goes, "It's not Peach Jam, bro." Which is like pretty much a perfect summation for what Emoni Bates is right now. And I texted you guys this the other day. I think that Memphis has a major before we get into everything going on in the locker room and some of the things that Penny said in his press conference. I think that they have a major Emoni Bates problem in the fact that this is a team, since Penny that has gotten there, that has kind of built themselves around being elite defensively, right? They're going to overwhelm you with length. They're going to overwhelm you with athleticism. They're going to be physically tougher than you. They're going to force turnovers. They're going to get stuff in transition. They're going to win because of their defense. And you cannot do that with Emoni Bates on the floor. One, he's not physically ready to be what he needs to be defensively. Two, he has no idea what he's doing defensively. He's always in the wrong spot. He's always making the wrong read. He's always getting – if there's a coverage mix-up and two people go to the same guy, 99% of the time Emoni Bates is involved with that. And he's just not – I don't think that he wants to play defense at this point. Like, he's not a guy that's like, yeah, I'm going to go get a stop. I don't care if my man I'm not going to let my man beat me, right? He doesn't really care. So he's not good enough on the offensive end to make up for the fact that he's basically a net negative defensively. So like it's negatives all across the board for Emoni, but he's on the floor like 30 minutes a game, right? Like I don't understand how you can have him be as inefficient as he is at everything offensively while also being a negative defensively and expect to be able to win a game when your entire thing is based off of defense, right? If you're going to go out there and try to win games offensively, like, okay, load up. Let's get lineups where we just have Durant at the 5, Landers and Lester Quinones and then Alex Lomax and Emoni Bates, and go small and get all your best scorers out there. And let's go try to score 90 points from everybody. But that's not what they're doing. They're trying to win with defense, and they're playing Emoni Bates as much as they are. Like, it makes no sense to me, and I don't know how you fix that, right? Like, I don't know if there's an answer that solves that easily without saying, okay, we got to get Emoni stronger. We got to get him ready to play defensively. We got to change his mindset, and we got to get him to stop taking these stupid fucking shots 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. So it's a major issue. I don't know how you fix that.
I still think they play really good half court defense when it's there. But the problem is their offense undermines their defense consistently. Like some of the Bates shots, some of the decision making they make, there's long rebounds, there's runouts off steals. And today, the part that drove me crazy was they just kept, every time they turn the ball over or take a bad shot and they'd give up a rebound, they'd reach and they'd foul. Like they gave up 10 twos today. Their defense was really good. Like it's impossible to score inside the arc on them. But Mississippi made 23 free throws because they just got to walk to the free throw line every time. So that's, it's not exactly on Bates himself, but some of his decision making, some of his shots. I mean, he was 1 for 10 today from the field with a couple of times where he just dropped the ball while driving. I don't know. I don't know what you do, Tio. Like you've got to play him because like that's your identity is his talent. And we brought in these guys and you're not going to recruit as well after if you just bench a 5-star like that. But it's a dilemma. I'm like Rob, I'm not sure how you fix it.
So before we get into that, we're killing Emoni Bates right now, but I do want to make it clear that in the post game, like you mentioned, T.O., Penny, like he really went after his upperclassmen, and I'm going to read quotes that he gave to Seth Davis at the Athletic. Really,
before we blast the upperclassmen, can I just, because I think like it would get lost in the shuffle if I were to say this later, but like I think Emoni is a very good player. He is not going to help you win games at this point in his life because he's physically not ready. He gets bumped off of everything. He can't create good looks for himself because before he gets the ball, every cut, Ole Miss, like if you look at Ole Miss too, like that's a bunch of older dudes, big, strong, physical guys. Every cut that Emoni made, like he almost folded. Like I just, this year, whenever we came in, there's only a few guys that can do this. Paolo's a rare exception. And I think Trevor Keels is a rare exception to where physically they come in ready. Chet's not there. Imani's not there. Like these guys are not physically ready to play against some of these big time programs. And I consider Ole Miss a big time program from a physicality standpoint because of all the guys.
Davis there.
It's because they got Kermit. Kermit's a goat. I'm not sure what brand of goat, but he's a goat. I love Kermit. But like he has big physical dudes. Imani's not ready to play winning basketball yet. And I think the summer that he didn't have is something that is sorely needed. Like coming in August, and he made a really late decision. Like he enrolled late. Like, so he didn't even get those first 2 or 3 weeks of class before they finally got his enrolled.
He was at Peach Jam with us in late July playing.
Yeah. And he's talented. And guys, he's talented. He's not ready to help you win.
Be a good play. It's almost like, T.O., when most of these kids reclassify, the kids that really enroll in college as seniors in high school, if that makes sense. Not the guys that are a year old for their age and are 19-year-old freshmen reclassifying. The guys that are really going into college as seniors in high school, it rarely works out the way that we want it to work out because it's just, you need that year, man. That 17 to 18-year-old year of development physically, maturity-wise, it's huge. It's huge. But I do think we need to talk about kind of the stuff that Penny actually said because he went after his upperclassmen. And it was all over. He said it in his press conference. He said it to Jeff Calkins, who's the columnist for the Daily Memphian. But this is what he said to Seth Davis. He said, "We've got so much negativity." This is a quote from the Athletic article. "We've got so much negativity in our locker room with veterans being jealous. Everybody's trying to get to the NBA off the ranking we had, but nobody is willing to sacrifice minutes, touches, anything. It's been miserable. You can imagine what a 17-year-old is thinking as he's trying to figure it out." That's a reference to Emoni Bates. He didn't name names, but the guys that have kind of been lumped into that group of being jealous, of not wanting to sacrifice anything to try to appease Emoni. It's been Lester Quinones, it's been Landers Nolly, it's been DeAndre Williams, Alex Lomax. Some people will tell you there's pretty much all of the upperclassmen that came back have been the guys that are not really accepting their roles. And there's, before we kind of dive into this, I do just want to make one more point. Trevion Williams at Purdue. He was a preseason first team All Big Ten player. He was a guy that got preseason All-American votes. He is a senior. This is supposed to be his year where they build a team around him, right? Where they turn Purdue into a national title contender because of what he can do at the 5. And he's not starting. He got benched for a sophomore. And you know what he's done? He's sacrificed. He's accepted it. He's been the guy that's been the loudest cheerleader on the bench. He's been the biggest vocal supporter, the guy that took his job. And he's probably going to end up getting a contract somewhere as a result of it, because people see that and say, oh, you know what? He can accept a role. That's a good locker room dude. I want that guy within my organization, whether it's NBA, overseas, whatever it is. So I do think that it's important to kind of make that contrast for what Trevion Williams is doing versus what these guys at Memphis are doing. So Jim, how hard is that? Like you look at Penny on the bench while he's coaching, and he looks like he's having the worst time in the world on that sideline. He looks miserable.
He looks like they just immediately do things he told them not to do. And he's like, how do I fix this? The difference between Williams and some of these guys, Trevion, is that the guy that took his place is good. The guy that took his place is impacting winning. The guy, he's mega efficient. And it's like, all right, if Zach Edey is going to be an All-American, I can concede that. But if you're sitting behind Emoni Bates and he's thrown up 10 misses a game and he's turned the ball over a bunch, it's going to start to piss you off a little bit, because you're like, we won last year. Look what we did. We went, the end of the year when DeAndre Williams became the focal point, they win the NIT, and now they lost to Georgia and Iowa State. Like that's not great. Lost to Mississippi. This is like the fever dream of in a preseason, everybody who's like, that team has too much talent. The chemistry is going to blow up. Like this is the exact epitome of what you're talking about when you say that. And it's never usually this bad, but yeah, Dio, it's rough right now. And again, like we keep saying this in Memphis, but I don't know how you fix it. I don't know what you do.
Well, you make the standards and the expectations the same for everybody. And I think like when Trevion Williams gets beat, you think Painter is treating Edey any different than Trevion Williams? The expectations for what they're supposed to do is completely different. For him to single out Emoni, or not to single out Emoni, he was 1 for 10. Let's call it what it was. He was 1 for 10. I didn't hear people about 1 for 10 now. And those guys that he mentioned, they didn't get a lot of shots up. So like the set of expectations has to be the same. And sometimes when guys get better, and I'm not in the locker room, so I don't know. I'm just spitballing here, boys. We're talking about it, so I'm gonna say it. Like when expectations are different for different players on the team, guys get better. And especially when a guy has come in and not been there for very long and given that much lease, when they haven't been given that much lease and they've been there for 3 years, that could be a problem. Now, Trevion Williams gets beat out. He's got the same kind of leash that he had and the same kind of leash that Zach Edey has, so he can understand. I think the dynamic would be different there. I just think it all happening so fast for Emoni coming in 3 weeks late to school, starting lineup. Jalen Duren coming right into school, starting lineup. Guys are not going to be happy about it, and that's part of it. And it's hard to fix, but if you're holding your accountability, if the level of accountability is the same for all the guys on the team, including Emoni, because he was 1 for 10. Let's not forget that. If the same level of accountability is for him, it's for Lester Quiones, is for all the other guys, Lomax, all that stuff, that's fine. There's role definitions that are different. But what you're doing as far as what you're held accountable to is the same, then I don't think guys are going to be as upset. I think Emoni is getting a little bit of leash because some of the shots he's shooting, guys, them boys is wild. That's all I'm going to say. Like he's shooting some wild shots.